What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today the New York Giants just began their offseason workout program. Phase one is voluntary, but the Giants had a lot of big players, a lot of their veterans, and some of their best players on their roster show up to the voluntary workouts that began today, Monday, April 4th. And of course, a lot of interview opportunities occurred, and there was a lot of great quotes that came from the New York Giants. So we're going to go ahead and dive into them right now. So as I mentioned, the Giants had a pretty good turnout today for their voluntary workouts. Here's some of the notable veterans that have arrived so far. Definitely not a complete list, but here's some of the big ones. Leonard Williams was there, Zizo Jalari, Andrew Thomas, Aaron Robinson, Darius Slayton, Dexter Lawrence, Sterling Shepard, Tyrod Taylor, and a bunch of other players as well. I'm Saquon Barkley is there as well. Attendance is a big deal at these kinds of things, especially when a new regime is coming in. No word yet on James Bradberry and Kadarius Toney, according to Ryan Dunleavy of the NY Post, but there was a really good turnout here today. A lot of veterans and a lot of important players there to participate in the voluntary workouts. Once again, voluntary. They don't have to do it, but they're doing it anyway. So really good to see all of those veterans in attendance. Another big piece of news, Joe Schoen reached his last resort. The Giants converted $8.965 million of cornerback Adoree Jackson's contract into a signing bonus with a void year added, creating $5.98 million in cap space, according to Field Yates. So I think this is really important to note, especially when, if I know everybody that's a daily viewer of Fireside Giants, you guys saw the video that we posted yesterday discussing how the Giants will create cap space for their 2022 draft class. Of course, 2 first-round picks in that draft class makes it extra expensive. And then the fact that the Giants have 9 picks, so 2 extras, to the normal 7 that they would have, that means that they have to spend extra money on their draft class this year. So they needed to free up cap space. They only had about $1.5 million left in cap space going into today. So obviously, creating some cap space right here with Adoree Jackson's contract was necessary and super important. We'll keep you updated on any other moves that they make. Of course, Kenny Golladay and Leonard Williams are kind of the other 2 big contracts that they could maybe look to restructure. So we'll see if they end up going that route or if they end up cutting some players, maybe like Darius Slayton. We discussed that in the video. So we'll see exactly what goes down there, and we'll, of course, keep you updated. But let's go ahead with the top takeaways from the Giants' first day of offseason programming. Kind of just diving into some of the quotes that are going around the web, going around Twitter, seeing what the Giants are saying about themselves, seeing what people are saying about the Giants. So Daniel Jones on John Mara's comment about screwing him up. Quote, "My focus is on preparing myself. I take full responsibility for how I've played. We haven't won enough games. We haven't scored enough points. I take responsibility for that as a quarterback." End quote. Now, I love that quote from Daniel Jones, of course, taking the accountability, being a leader. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything less of Daniel Jones. He is a phenomenal leader. He always does take accountability, and he is excuse me. He is a great guy off the field, absolutely. But the question is, can he win football games? Can he be the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants? That's always been the question. It's never been a question of his character. Love to see that he's stepping into this new regime. He's taking accountability. He's continuing his great character. But of course, he knows it. We know it. We got to see him perform on the football field. It's of the utmost importance that he has a good year this year if he wants a long-term contract with the Giants. Brian Dable on Adoree Jackson, quote, "I think he's a good player for us. The restructures would be a better question for Joe Schoen, but I'm happy he's here," end quote. So, of course, that's in regards to the restructuring of Adoree Jackson's contract that I mentioned earlier. Brian Dable didn't really give too much insight on that restructuring. Again, I think that it has to do with the fact that the Giants have a big draft class coming in this year. They need to spend some money there, so probably just needed to restructure Adoree Jackson. They didn't cut him. They didn't trade him. They didn't try to get rid of him in any way. And I don't think that this says anything about James Bradberry and a potential trade there either, because I think that the Giants are probably comfortable going into the 2022 season with Adoree Jackson as their number 1 cornerback or their number 2, whichever way it shapes out. I think that this has nothing really to do with the James Bradberry contract. But one thing I will say, I think we discussed in the video yesterday, the Giants need around $16 million in order to sign that draft class. So they probably have close to $8 million right now. Trading James Bradberry gives them another 12, unless they eat some of that contract. Let's say they only get 8 there. That's their route to that $16 million. So very important, big move by Joe Schoen today to restructure Adoree Jackson's contract. Here's a quote from Sterling Shepard on the pay cut that he took this offseason. Quote, "They wanted me here and I wanted to be here," end quote. absolutely. The Giants wanted to keep Sterling Shepard around. They just couldn't afford to at the price tag. Sterling Shepard obviously wanted to stay because he took the pay cut. So happy to see Sterling Shepard back here. I definitely think he's going to be in line for a good year if he's able to stay healthy. He did give an update on his injury, going to pull that quote up as well as we take a look at Sterling Shepard, coming off of an Achilles tear, huge injury, but according to him, he is recovering pretty well and trying his best to get back on the football field as soon as possible. Yeah, he said he did the pros and the cons, and the pros outweighed the cons by a landslide. This was the best situation for me and my family. That was in regards to taking the pay cut and staying with the New York Giants. And of course, they, like he said, they wanted him to be here. He wanted to be here. Sterling Shepard said he doesn't have a timetable on his return. He's taking it day by day to get back out there with his guys. But I definitely think it's important to see him here at the voluntary workouts. I think that's big because most of the workouts that they're doing at the voluntary phase is just strength and conditioning, a lot of injury recovery as well for those guys coming off of the injuries. So definitely good to see young Shep in the fold for the Giants offseason workouts to begin today. So now let's dive into a few more of these quotes that we can find. Here's one about Brian Dable. Brian Dable said that they had, quote, a packed house today, end quote, but stressed this portion of the offseason program is voluntary. He didn't answer when asked if James Bradberry is in attendance. I wouldn't expect Bradberry to attend anything voluntary with his future uncertain. That's from Dan Duggan. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think we'll see James Bradberry. I still believe a James Bradberry trade is imminent. I think it will happen within the next 2-3 weeks, definitely by the start of the 2022 NFL draft. I think it's really important to note that the Giants have been in kind of constant communication with the Kansas City Chiefs discussing a potential trade for James Bradberry. It's very important to note that. And of course, there's also been other teams around the league that have called the Giants with interest in trading for James Bradberry. So I don't think James Bradberry's future on this team extends past the month of April, unfortunately. I love James Bradberry. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he's had a very good 2 years with the Giants, but unfortunately, I think his time is coming to an end. The Giants desperately need that cap space in order to fit those players from the 2022 draft class under the salary cap. So, unfortunately, it seems like James Bradberry is on his way out. I wouldn't expect to see him at any of these voluntary workouts. Continuing with some of the other quotes, Daniel Jones on his neck, quote, "I'll be cleared and ready to go," end quote. Love to hear that. Daniel Jones, starting quarterback of the New York Giants, going into a crucial fourth season in his career. Make or break year. He's looking for that fifth-year option. Personally, don't think that he's done enough to earn that fifth-year option extension. I think, some Giants fans might disagree, but I think the majority of Giants fans agree he has not done enough to get that fifth-year option picked up. So he's going to have a huge fourth year. But of course, that deadline, I think, is on May 2nd. But he's going to have a really big fourth year if he wants a long-term future with the New York Giants. So far, it just hasn't been enough. He said it himself with the quote that I read earlier, and he knows it. He knows he needs to have a big year. But thankfully, he will be healthy. His neck injury will be cleared. He'll be ready to go at the start of the regular season, and he can give it one last hurrah to see if he can earn the future of the New York Giants franchise quarterback position. Let's go ahead, continue with the quotes. Here's a cool one from Xavier Mckinney. Xavier Mckinney, who has been in the league for 2 years, said it feels like he's been in the NFL for 6 years with all that's happened thus far in his career. Yeah, I mean, the Giants have been a complete mess the past couple of years, right? So Xavier McKinney has experienced a lot more than most first and second year players ever have. So I think for Xavier McKinney, kind of just going through a lot of roster overturn, a lot of management and coaching staff overturn. Joe Judge, I mean, yeah, he had 2 years with the Giants, but he had a lot of coaching staff overturn. There was always shifts within assistant coaches, and the defensive scheme changed a whole lot. So Xavier McKinney has been through a lot. He has every right to feel like he's been in the league for a lot longer than he has, but hopefully he's able to, step into this new defensive scheme with Wink Martindale, which he said he's excited for. He also had a quote today saying he was excited, thinks it's going to be a lot of fun, was the word that he used. I definitely agree with that. Wink Martindale loves to blitz, loves to play a lot of man coverage. That's fun football in my eyes, and I think Xavier McKinney is going to thrive in that role as that single high safety in the cover 3, cover 1 defense that Wink Martindale loves to run. So yeah, I think we'll find a couple more quotes to dive into here. Of course, the Giants, this is all voluntary. There are some pro day circuit. The pro day circuit just ended. The Giants are going to have their top 30 visits beginning soon. Brian Dable says that he has stayed off the pro day circuit, but he's dug into his own evaluation of prospects on video, not just game film, but he has access to all video from pro days from Giants personnel in attendance. The face-to-face will happen during the top 30 visits this month. And I think I did see something about James Cook today with the New York Giants, and James Cook, the running back that they've been extremely interested in, projected to go in the middle round, second, maybe third. Not only does the Giants voluntary offseason program begin today, but Georgia running back James Cook is in town on a top 30 visit per source. So the Georgia running back that they really love, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding the Giants and James Cook. They're having him in for a top 30 visit already. That's pretty early on in this process. Sounds like he is the first prospect that they're having in for a top 30 visit. Extremely interesting stuff there. Giants have significant interest in James Cook. Curious to see how high they're willing to draft him in April. So here's another quote about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones on his fifth-year option, the one we were just discussing, quote, "There will be a time and a place for those conversations. We'll see. We'll take care of it when it comes up. I'm focused on what we're doing here, preparing and taking advantage of every day we have together," end quote. Again, very high class. Everything that Daniel Jones says is like, almost exactly what you would expected Eli Manning to say. He's great with the media. He knows exactly what to say. He's not going to say anything too arrogant or, too exposing for the Giants. So definitely happy with that as well. Xavier McKinney says it sucked to see Logan Ryan released. Of course, I think most of the Giants defenders probably feel that way. They all had a great relationship with him. Great player there. Willis has, here's a really interesting one. Liberty quarterback Malik Willis is scheduled to visit next week with, amongst others, the Atlanta Falcons and Carolina Panthers per source. Willis has already met with the Steelers, Saints, Giants, Titans, and others. So that's really interesting. Definitely got to keep an eye on that. The fact that the New York Giants have met with Malik Willis, projected top 10 pick in this year's 2022 NFL draft at the quarterback position. Definitely interesting there. Ryan Dunleavy of the NY Post also saying that the Giants are expected to meet with Kenny Pickett at some point too. So definitely curious to see what the Giants are doing there with the top quarterback positions, the top quarterback prospects rather, in this 2022 NFL draft class. But I think that really hits on most of the major quotes from today, from the first day of voluntary workouts for the New York Giants and their offseason program. Of course, the offseason program is going to be a long one. It's going to continue, going to be more voluntary and then also mandatory workouts at some point soon. So we'll definitely continue to keep you guys posted on all of that, keep you updated with all of the quotes and the news surrounding the New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So stay tuned as always. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss a video, and I'll catch you guys in the good one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.